Hello, my name is Bill Hansen, and welcome to Bill Live. In January of 2020, the much anticipated by astrologers conjunction of Saturn and Pluto took place in the heavens, with wide implications for the United States and the world. I've written extensively about this conjunction. You can read my article and the predictions that I've made on my website, astrobill.com, and look for the 2020 triple conjunction. For Jupiter, later in the year, will join with Saturn and Pluto in 3 different phases. One of the implications of the Saturn-Pluto conjunction is obviously the COVID-19 pandemic. Pandemics are nothing new, but they tend to cluster at 2 times during sunspot maximum and sunspot minimum. In 2019, sunspots were at a minimum. What's most on our mind today is how long might this viral crisis last? To get some idea, come on, let's take a look at this nasty little horoscope. This is the horoscope of the first COVID-19 diagnosis in the United States, taking place January 21st in Washington State. I don't have the exact time of this diagnosis, so the chart is set up for noon. You see the sun at the midheaven. There are several features here that are quite significant. Here is, of course, the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, the sun having just crossed Saturn and Pluto over the course of the last few days. About 8 days prior to this date, it was on Pluto, igniting the Saturn-Pluto potentials. Furthermore, the surprise strength of the virus, its suddenness, are clearly evident by the sun in a 90-degree relationship with Uranus. This is an applying square, indicating, again, great strength, turmoil, stress, and unpredictable circumstances. And these would tend to increase after the January 21st date and last for some time. One other thing about the Saturn-Uranus square is the fact that it took our leadership by surprise. Mars, though, is the most critical feature in this chart. It's making a 90-degree square to both Venus and Neptune. Both of these are applying squares. Mars, the planet of crisis, threats, death, and suffering. So you can see how the financial sector has been rocked, greatly shaken. Also, the hospitality industry, sports, entertainment, restaurant industry, resorts and hotels, all being heavily impacted and continuing to be heavily impacted for quite some time due to the applying square. Neptune represents hospitals, medical supplies, cruise ships. You can see how this has been heavily impacted once again and continues to be a problem. There are some rays of hope here, though, but you can see education, transportation, communications even, again, being very suddenly impacted. Mercury is the planet of commerce, which was completely shattered, or partially so. This is a separating square, however, indicating that there's some resilience and the conditions may not get worse. In fact, look at how schools have rebounded and gone viral. There's a 60-degree sextile between Mercury and Mars. This is an applying sextile, and here we see many businesses remain open, and transportation, particularly, and manufacturing remains pretty much still in operation. So the mail is being delivered. We've got transportation, and many businesses still strong and operational, even though there's been massive layoffs. The time after this particular moment, the planets continue to move in the heavens, of course, and then they form angular relationships back to these natal positions. Astrologers refer to this as transits. It's a primary method of forecasting. Give you some idea of how this works, as well as the implications in terms of the timing of this virus. We see on March 21st, Jupiter had moved from this position in the onset chart and went over Pluto and Saturn, igniting them. And it was in the latter part of March when New York City, New Orleans became the epicenter of the pandemic, and it began to multiply tremendously across the nation. I've predicted that around April 1st, it would gain in great strength because Mars, as a transit, moves and goes over the Sun. Also in the month of April, Saturn moves from here and joins the Sun. So the entire month of April is the most deadly, I believe, and it will reach its peak at this time and perhaps go into the month of May. The glimmer of hope is Mars will go over Venus on the 27th of May. I believe this will bring a harmonization, a balancing out of this viral pandemic and an easing up. The main planets in the heavens, the slow movers, will be going retrograde over the course of the summer. That means that they're going to move a certain distance and then go back from an Earth point of view, clicking these positions once again, and then going forward one last time during the fall. If retrogrades work as they do in the lives of individuals, they'll tend to be a remission, a submission, a kind of dampening down of the virus. So indeed, the summer heat may weaken it, and it goes into submission. However, in November and December, the transits are moving forward again, and they cross these critical points. Pluto will join its natal position in this horoscope on November the 22nd. And then in December, Pluto will then join, Pluto joins Saturn, and Jupiter will go over the Sun, here, going over the Sun, and all these positions are once again clicked. I think this represents then, in the month of November and December, a second wave, a startup of the virus once again. There looks to me, though, to be a sudden innovation, a breakthrough of some kind. I believe this will come in the month of January. It could be a vaccine. Commerce, due to the transits to Mercury in this horoscope, are going to, Jupiter and Saturn both go over. Here's Jupiter, and Saturn will now have moved and going over Mercury in this chart in the latter part of January and on into March. This could be a resumption then of business as usual. So it looks like we may get lucky in the summer, if I'm right. In the fall, it comes back, but not for very long. And hopefully that's the way it will pan out. I'd like to remind you once again to please read my 2020 triple conjunction article on my website, AstroBill, as well as the 2019 financial forecast, which accurately predicted this financial crash of ours in 2020. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great day.